Tim?
Sometimes. I think that I remember vaguely liking Macy Gray's first single when it came out, and then 2 weeks later I sort of had to hunt down any record of this and burn it because I decided that I hated her. And it was quite an embarrassing sort of thing to publicly go back on so quickly.
But what caused the shift for you?
I don't know, it was sort of this ideological moment actually. It was indicative of something broader perhaps, that I suddenly realised that I had to take a stand against New Soul, which lasted for about 10 years.
That's amazing. I think sometimes too, and we've mentioned this before on the topic of album reviewing, is that when you work on a weekly paper and even sometimes a monthly, you know, you don't necessarily get a lot of time to sit with an album. I don't know if that was different back in the day. We romanticise things like Rolling Stone and Cream magazine, and whether or not those people had months to sit with records. They probably didn't either, but a lot of the time that happens too. So you sit down, you have quite a visceral response to something, good or bad, and then you file. Because a lot of the time you go in, you pick up an album on a Friday.
And you're influenced by things like danceability.
Exactly.
Which, you know, I mean, in the case of dance, I suppose is, you know, is more relevant.
Bit of a key criterion, yeah.
yeah, but at, you know, 2 a.m. danceability is actually more relevant than perhaps, you know, deeper ideological purpose.
Absolutely, and I don't know about you guys, but it's definitely something that even if it's not music that I then go in and write about later, once I've had that realisation, it still plagues me. I remember on the topic of Travis and Coldplay and that whole bunch of bands that came out, and Alan McGee called them bedwetters. And there was a great piece of writing in Beat magazine in about 2001 by Ramon Lobato, who sadly we've lost to academia. But it basically said, etc., about Coldplay and Travis being, you know, kind of soggy biscuit music. And then at the end it said, just remember kids, it's okay to want more. And that was one of the most resonant pieces of writing for me when I was starting out. And so over the last couple of months, I've kind of gotten back into Travis. Not that I was into them to begin with. And the spectre of Ramon is lurking over my head.
Shaking his head and tisk-ticking, yes, absolutely.
Thinking of returning to music criticism just to take me down.
Well, that's interesting because I had a very similar, viscerally strong reaction against Travis. This would have been about in 2000, and at the time I felt like they were everything in music that I didn't like. They seemed sort of weepy and appealing to the commonality of man and why does it always rain on me. Any song that is designed for guys to huddle in a group in a bad beery bar and sort of blare out at the top of their lungs, I was kind of reacting against, and I was thinking, why can't people be into Destiny's Child instead? And this was a really important distinction for me. Now it seems very irrelevant, and I can't summon up any negative feelings towards Travis whatsoever. It just, the context in which that dispute or that feud was important to me has just disappeared.
Yeah, I think that sense that if you praise something, it's at the expense of something else, or can also play into your credibility within your own genre. I don't know how much this plays into critical revisionism or just, you know, my life in general, but I had this really stunning moment, emotional moment, when I interviewed Machine Head, who are an American thrash band. And I was talking to the guitarist, and we were talking about, it happened to come up that Lars Ulrich had made this comment about emotionally damaged people being attracted to metal versus the kind of people that will be attracted to an Elton John concert. And he said, this is Phil from Machine Head, had said that, well, actually, I think you're going to get emotionally damaged people at an Elton John concert as much as a metal concert. And in fact, I think a lot of metal fans are Elton John fans. And I released this burst of energy saying, oh my God, I really am. And he said, yeah, I am too. Actually, it was the first album that I bought. And I was like, oh my God, are you serious? He's like, yeah, Elton John's Greatest Hits was the first album that I bought. And suddenly this contained love that I had for something that was completely in opposition to the genre that I was meant to represent as a complete human being, I was almost allowed to like something else, and it wasn't going to be at the expense. I mean, the fact that I needed, you know, a man in his 50s to say it's okay is a little sad, but I think that relates to the idea that, you know, if you like Travis, it means that, you know, that you're liking it at the expense of something else, but out of,
if you love Scott Bayou, you go to him and you tell him. And I think that's part of it too, is that sense of permission, because like it or not, and I think we all attempt to sort of move apart from the pack to a certain extent within our chosen areas of music criticism.
Or we all think we do.
Well, yeah, exactly, and I'm sure the internet will fire up 10 seconds after I say that. But, there is a sense that given a certain time span or a decent fourth album or working with a particular producer or something, in the case of Dido, who I think is one of the most universally, at least critically reviled artists, mega selling, but, critically white toast music. She's just recently worked with Brian Eno, she's worked with John Bryan, and I thought it was a great album full stop, but I know there's a lot of people who probably go, oh, maybe she's actually not so bad after all. Maybe she does actually know about music.
But so much music criticism is playground politics. It's about, you're for the stuff that seems to sum up your identity and you're against the other stuff that seems to go against your identity. And I think the great thing about just continually listening to music over a long time is that you realise that pretty much anything can be good. And really it can. Not everything is, but anything can be, which is nice to sort of realise.
Well, I think that we're pretty much out of a job then, so that'll be the end of Dancing About Architecture for the time being. We kid.